Welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my God, are you talking in unison the whole time? Because that's going to be awesome.
We'll try. Here we go.
You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. This week I spoke with Sasha Kapustina and Inbal Rotem-Sagiv. Easy for me to say. Sasha and Inbal are making a film called I Clown You. It's about clowns who work in hospitals in Israel. It's a complex and important art. These are passionate filmmakers on a mission to expand this healing art. We talked clowning, immigration, parental expectations, growing up in Russia and Israel. It's pretty juicy. And I apologize in advance for my immature sense of humor. I won't explain now, but you will hear it. You can also see some of this interview on my new YouTube channel. The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood, is now on YouTube. You can find us also at theother50%.com to see bios, photos, the blog, the coffee cups, the t-shirts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Podbay, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. Please help spread the word and share this podcast with at least one friend today. And I have another podcast called The Other 50%, a herstory of tech. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or on the Other 50% website. And that is where I talk to successful women in tech and hear their stories. Okay, here's Sasha and Inbal.
Okay, tell us who you are.
I'm Sasha Kapustina. Right now, I'm a documentary filmmaker.
Inbal.
My name is Inbal Rotem-Sagiv. I am the producer, one of the producers in I Clown You documentary, and I love it.
Okay, let's talk about the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's called I Clown You.
Yes.
What is that about?
It's a documentary about clowns who work in hospitals in Israel. And I usually say it in those like 3 chunks.
So we can react separately.
So that
Clowns,
it,
what?
who work in hospitals.
Oh.
In Israel.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, is this a normal thing in Israel to have clowns in the hospital?
It's a totally normal thing, which is amazing. Hospitals hire professional clowns, pay them hourly, incorporate them into protocols and procedures of the hospital, and the clowns actually collaborate with the staff, and they work with the children, with adults, with the families, with the patients, with everybody.
They're just part of the holistic approach to healthcare?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is. It is quite incredible. And, you know, a hospital is a traumatic place, no matter what you're doing. Like, the moment you walk in, it's already, you're faced with all of it instantly. You
It's
see
scary,
somebody in pain.
it's mortality.
Even if you're just visiting somebody, who's probably your dear friend or family, you see all of it. You see all the options. You see all the avenues. You're reminded of your own mortality. You're scared. You're scared for them. All the smells, all the sounds.
All the germs.
It's just terrifying. Yeah, I've been sick the entire time of the production, by the way.
I bet.
Because you're in the hospital all the time. I couldn't get out of colds the entire production.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a whole thing. I've sat in more than one emergency room in full-on labor while everyone is just sitting in the chairs watching as I'm going, ah!
That sounds like fun.
Good times, good times. Anyhow.
But that's a good one. Like, that's one of the rare happy occasions to be in the hospital.
Right, it's still scary.
It's still scary, but it's, you know, you kind of at least go there for the good purpose.
Right, and then it's don't touch anything while you're here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then don't touch my baby. Whatever you do.
Right.
Okay, so why did you decide to make a film about this?
Well, I guess I'll
You have
take
a good
that
story.
one too.
Yeah.
A few years ago, that would be 7 years ago, I moved from Moscow to Israel with my best friend, who we went to law school together. It's, you know, it's
Okay, now there's
that's like a
right?
path. There is a path. So my best friend Masha Tishkova, who is my co-creator of this documentary, she's based in Jerusalem. So we moved from Moscow to Jerusalem, and then it so happened that I received a Fulbright scholarship to come out here. which I didn't think I was gonna get. I just applied and moved to Israel, and then I got it. So I had to leave, and my best friend stayed there. So we said we have to come up with a project to do together, to have a reason to call each other once a week, so that when I'm back, after I'm done with my studies, we can continue working on that project. And we thought that it would be interesting to make a movie. We wanted to make a movie about Israel because we were so fascinated with it. And we thought that hospital is an interesting place to look at because everybody comes to the hospital.
It's dramatic.
Of course, yes, life and death. Stakes
Made many a
couldn't
good
be
TV
higher.
show.
Exactly. I mean, they do make a lot of them. So we started to look for a storyline in the hospital. And Masha literally just walked into the hospital, and at the time she had a day job in the marketing department of the hospital, so she had an in with administration, so we got all the permits. So she was wandering around looking for something, and just bumped into a clown outside smoking, and started talking with them.
And when hey, so
exactly, I mean, that's exactly what it was. And when she told me, I knew that's it. This was going to be our story. I knew it the moment she told me.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments in life where you remember what you were looking at and how the light was in the room. Like you remember it.
Like that's it.
Yeah. And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Great. And how did you get involved?
I met Sasha on set of a commercial I was producing last year. I came from corporate, commercial producing in Israel, and I started to do it here as well, just to get into the business and to get to know productions, because that was my background. And I worked with Sasha on set, and we clicked. And Sasha told me about the project. You were going to Israel.
Yeah, I was preparing to go for the second round of filming.
And I was just fascinated by it. And I still have my connections in Israel, in production.
Now, did you grow up in Israel?
Yeah. I came to America a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is all new.
Yeah.
This Burbank.
Yeah. Thank you. It's lovely. So we clicked and we kept in touch. And I felt that I want to help, that I want to support, that I want to be part of it, because
Now, are you making this film for an Israeli audience or an American audience or a worldwide? What is the point exactly of this film?
Well, the point is that love trumps hate. And no, for real, actually.
Which is our new motto.
Right? I wish we could use it for our T-shirts. But really, that's what it's about. In the most essential, core. There's many themes. There's, life and death and dealing with pain and dealing with Israeli-Palestinian conflict and many different things in this film. But essentially, it's about being able to connect with people and being able to be with people even when it's uncomfortable, and be able to face it in the moment.
Now, the trailer I saw, I thought the clown was Palestinian, wasn't he?
Yes, he is one of them.
I don't even know how to dig into this, but there's something there.
There is, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
it was a big surprise, that story.
It
Right?
was, yeah. So we were working on this, and that's around the time when Inbal joined the team. That's when the story came. So that was about a year ago. We were 4 years into production. We did the Kickstarter. I went to Israel. I was there for 4 months. I thought I was done filming, for the most part. I spent all the production money on that production, and I was like, all right, we're gonna fundraise for post now. And 2 weeks later, I get a Facebook request from Abdallah from Gaza. I'm like, okay.
What's up?
Who's that? Not every day you get such a request.
Yeah.
And I've never met anyone from Gaza. I met Israeli Arabs, but I've never met anyone from the West Bank or... well, actually, we have been to West Bank. That's not true. But Gaza, no. And so I looked at his profile, and I saw that he's friends with a bunch of my clown friends. And I was like, oh, he's a clown. That's interesting. So I started talking to him. Turns out he was, at the time, 22. When he was 13, he had cancer. And he was brought to Israel to get treatment for cancer. And he met all the clowns. And he was so inspired by them and so impressed with them. He said, if I survive, I'll become a clown.
I have chills.
I know. And so he did. He survived and he became a clown in Gaza, volunteer clown in hospitals. And he was reaching out to the Israeli clowns, hoping that somebody would mentor him or help him get better or become a professional, figure it out.
Like, he took this clowning very seriously.
Because in Israel, it's very serious.
It is very
serious
You know,
business.
it's a career path
Yeah.
that you can take.
Yeah. No,
There's
you have
training.
You have to have 5 to 7 years of experience to become a hospital clown. You also have to go through special training. The organization takes very serious approach at selecting people, and vetting people, and training them. And
It's a real
continuously
art.
training.
It's not just putting on a costume and
Absolutely not.
goofing around.
Yes.
No.
And it's one of the themes of the film, but not the main one. But I was always absolutely fascinated with how deep it really goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Abdallah, what happened was he thought I was one of the clowns because I have my red nose and my Facebook page. And he added me just by accident. And I was like, okay, I guess we're going back in production.
It may or may not be an accident.
Yes. And so it took another year. It set us back or moved us forward a year, whatever you know, the wording you choose. But we had to go back, step back from editing and focus on, okay, what do we do? And it took me a few months first to even build a relationship with him and see, you know, if he's serious about it.
Now, is he still in Gaza?
And he is still in Gaza.
Oh, did you film him in Gaza?
No.
A little bit.
Yes, true that. So what happened was we figured out a way to bring him to Israel for a month internship with Dudi, who was the guy who Masha ran into originally.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
His name is Dudi.
Dudi, yeah. He goes by Douche.
Even better. Even better, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to love that here.
Yeah.
Dudi, who goes by douche, because that's better. That's great.
Yeah.
And he's a clown.
And he's a clown.
Perfect.
And he's a wonderful clown. He is.
He's a hero. An inspiring clown. And a person.
And
What's the name on his birth certificate?
David.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dudi is short for David in Israel.
Yeah, it's very common. Just duty. Yeah.
Dudi, Dudu. That's David. Yeah. Just so you know, next time you meet a Dudu from Israel,
Yeah,
that's David.
It's we have
That's a
experiences of
hilarious
humor.
cultural difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Sasha is Alexandra.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the things we're learning today.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot. Diversity.
That's right.
Right?
True.
So yeah, what happened was it took a while. We figured out, we built a relationship with Abdallah, and then we brought Dudi on board, and he was willing to become the mentor, and then he helped us convince the hospital to take that on because it's, you know, it's never.
You want to be careful.
Yeah, and we've heard all kinds of things. People would tell me like, you're not going to be able to bring him. They're not going to give him a permit. Israelis are not going to let him
Just
in.
a clearance.
Palestinians are not going to let him out. Mm-hmm. He's going to get killed. His blood is going to be on your hands. He's going to come into Israel and blow something up. He's going to come into Israel and stab someone.
Oh, there's so much fear.
Do you realize what you're taking on? My dad told me he's going to get killed, and it's going to be your responsibility. You better find out a way to help him. And I was like, Dad, I'm making a movie about clowns?
Let's all calm down.
But the reality is that you really never know.
Yeah.
And
once you've gotten involved in that way as a filmmaker.
Yeah. You are
it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And we did take it very seriously in terms of what we're putting out and the way we put the information out and the timing of putting the information out.
Yeah, when he was back home and safe.
Yeah.
Oh, you waited till he was back.
We waited for him to make it clear on his side with his community. And I did ask him probably 1,000 times, do you realize what you're doing? And he's 23, and he's an adult, but he's a young adult.
Yeah.
Very naive.
And very naive, somebody who grew up in a very specific, very difficult environment. And it was something that I had to take on. But for me, it was also a mind-blowing experience so basically what we did, the hospital agreed to take it on, and the Kogat,
The coordinator for the territories.
basically the body within the Israeli government that deals with issuing permits and dealing with the territories, with West Bank and Gaza.
Yeah.
So they are responsible to issue the permits. So they were very kind and very supportive of the project because they wanted this to happen. And
Well, I gotta think it's very healing.
yeah,
It's good press for everybody.
Good PR for everyone.
good PR for everyone, but tricky.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So everyone was a little cautious, but wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Still willing to do it. And to me, that was also inspiring, that people, no matter how hurt they were on both sides, both him and the Israelis and the dangers and all the ifs and what ifs.
Well, such a raw, painful wound.
Yeah, but it went well.
Yay!
Everything is fine for now.
And I love it. You hear stories so many times of a kid has cancer and spends a lot of time in hospitals and grows up and says, I want to be a doctor. You never hear, I'm going to grow up and be a hospital clown.
Yeah, actually,
They
Dudi
inspired him.
Dudi actually made that point in an interview. He was saying how, and kids do remember clowns.
Oh, for sure.
And especially if it's, a long period of time, they built really, really strong relationships with them. And where a doctor sometimes doesn't have time to sit and, connect on a personal level, that's what clown does. And even the doctor does really save the life. The clown is also there to help move forward.
Oh, it's a huge piece of it, I think.
Yeah. There was just a fun day when you got to get them all together, Abdallah and the clowns that were with him 10 years ago. They would had a little reunion.
You got to meet the clowns that had helped him?
Yeah, that inspired him to get into clowning.
Oh, I want to watch that scene.
Yeah, we'll see it.
That's so cool. Now, are you trying to bring this practice to America? Is that part of the hope?
It wasn't originally, but as we're moving forward, I'm realizing that I'm sort of an advocate. I'm making an advocacy piece for clowns.
Yeah.
And I did a TED Talk. It was funny because I did TED Talk a couple weeks ago, and it was on the day when the movie It came out. Literally on the day, I was speaking of clown wisdom on TED, and I was like, yes.
Here's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Always good.
For sure. You asked if we were bringing it here. The funny thing is actually the practice started here in 1985 in Big Apple Circus. There's this man, Michael Christensen. Michael Christensen kind of started this whole idea of professional clowns working in hospitals. And then there's a whole other group and a whole other direction this practice lives in is Patch Adams and volunteer clowns who go and visit with patients. But professional medical clowning in hospitals did start and still exists in Big Apple Circus in New York, but it never took off here. So what happened was Israelis picked it up and ran with it. And now they have over 100 professional clowns all over the country working in every hospital.
And training.
And seminars and everything. And now the serendipitous, ironic thing is that they are teaching the first college course in medical clowning at USC for now 3 years. And the guy who started it, Zach Steele, he got inspired by an Israeli teacher who came out and gave a lecture here 3 years ago about medical clowning in Israel.
Can you major in medical clowning at USC?
Not yet. Not yet. It's a
coming?
2-semester class for now in the Applied Theater department, but yeah, they hope to grow it.
It's the first in America, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they've had three groups, 3 cohorts go through the 2 semesters now, and they're growing. And
Because we have some clown schools,
yes,
but I don't know if they're doing it for medical clowning at all.
it's not easy. It's not easy to get a job like that, and especially in the States where healthcare is so bottom line driven.
Yeah. So what point are you at with the film right now?
You talk.
Yeah, you talk for a minute.
Well, we are fundraising for post-production. We've started cutting and editing a little bit, but we have to get the funding to finish post, and we have plans for a little bit of animation and music, and we have a ton of footage.
Yeah, so you shot everything?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not good.
There's always stories, but you
have to stop at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't put out an 8-hour
Even clowns are telling
documentary.
me, you have to stop.
Enough already.
Yeah,
You got it.
literally.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There might be a sequel.
Move on with your life. So you're doing fundraising right now on Facebook. So we'll link to it so people can know where to go and where to kick in
Yes.
so that you can do your finishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what are you going to do? Film festivals? What's your plan?
That's the big hope.
Yeah.
Well, right now we're in November. We're actually Doody and another clown are coming out to Los Angeles, and we're going to do a series of events here. We're going to do lectures at UCLA, lectures at USC, a few other events around town.
A few temples.
Connecting with Jewish community here.
A master class
A master class.
of clowning,
Yes.
medical clowning, and clowning.
And clowning,
As a
clowning
whole,
and medical clowning by Doody. There's a 2-day event that people can participate in and take.
It's very cool. It's actually happening in LA Clowning School.
Yeah, LA Clown School is kind of hosting it.
Okay, so this has been your focus now for years, I imagine. What, and at some point you'll be done. And then what's next for you?
Well, there's a million ideas.
Yeah.
I had to actually put a few things on hold, a few documentary ideas, podcast ideas that I had to just not distract myself. I kind of have to remind myself to think. I think of myself as sort of an Olympic athlete. You have one goal, you have to focus, and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's very Russian of you.
Very Russian.
Yes.
That's good. It's good discipline.
Yeah. Well, I also did karate when I was a kid, so there's like a little bit of that.
But you can't do it all at the same time.
Yes.
You can get to it all.
And my mom used to tell me that, like, you cannot embrace the unembraceable.
Yeah.
So you have to just pick one.
How do you say that in Russian?
Нельзя объять необъятное.
See, I knew it'd sound cool.
And
Gibberish to me.
yeah, right.
So you're going to continue being a filmmaker. You're not going to go be a lawyer somewhere.
No, well, even though my dad keeps hoping for that, even 10 years later.
Yeah, when are you going to come home and be a lawyer?
He doesn't want me to come home, but he does want me to be a lawyer. He's like, why don't you just enroll in law school and just...
Yeah, do law school again and take the bar in whatever
Because it's fun. You should.
state or country you end up in.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, I'm never going to say never, because I definitely have that. One of the things that drive me certainly is the desire for justice. And I would like for my work to, in various ways, to contribute to that. So I don't know. Maybe I will end up being a human rights activist or a lawyer, or who knows,
It never hurts to
10
have that background,
Yeah.
no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're making social justice films,
Yeah.
it's kind of perfect.
Yeah. So
Very
one of the
useful.
things that I'm really looking forward to starting maybe in a half a year or so is a podcast about immigration. Immigrants.
Yes.
Yeah. Stories of immigrants.
Wow. I have a few ideas for you.
Yeah. Everyone has ideas. And it was one of those things and that came to me. I was talking to my therapist and
As we do.
As we do.
Always good to have one.
And I started telling her about how immigration is such a huge process, and she had no concept of it, really. Like, she knew it was a thing, but it didn't. I realized that she was probably mostly working with, Americans who grew up here and lived here their whole life, and she didn't realize what goes into that process.
Yeah.
And how deep it I mean, when I first moved to Israel, somebody told me, immigration is a scar for the rest of your life. And I looked at them and I was like, I know.
What do you mean?
Exactly,
scar?
but it stuck with me. I was like, I didn't sign up for a scar.
Yeah. Is it a wound?
It's a scar.
Yeah.
It's a scar that, sometimes something happens and it cracks it open. And then you have to find a way to heal it again. And then you just never know when it will.
It's just always present.
For sure. It just never. Another thing that happened with me was I kind of realized, it took me a long time to realize that I'm an immigrant. Because first I was in film school, then I had like a long time figuring my papers, and we thought that maybe we'll go back to Russia.
Yeah, you're a student, you're a traveler.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a citizen of the world. And then 4 years later, it kind of hit me when I got my green card. Oh, I'm an immigrant. And it was not a simple idea because I never wanted to be one.
Right, and it changes all the time. So I think to feel secure and settled and like this is final, when it could be ripped out from underneath you at any moment.
Yeah, well, that I did. At that time, I wasn't even thinking that, but just the idea of, oh, I'm an alien.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I was. I thought I was a guest. No, I'm an alien. Damn it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day when they were like arresting someone who came to a hospital. Like, can you not come visit? Can you not be a tourist for a day without getting arrested and sent back? Like, it's bizarre land right now, but I digress.
Yeah. No, but I called my mother-in-law, who is an immigrant from UK, and who has lived here for now more than almost 40 years. And I asked her, Lynn, when did you feel fine here? When did you feel like you're here? And she said, never. I still can't believe my children speak with American accent. I was like, oh.
That's it.
I know.
Now wait, at what point did you get married?
Yeah, in the middle there. I went to film school, and asked my future husband out. And
You went to film school here?
yes, that's what Fulbright brought me in.
Aha, so you married an American who has English parents.
Yes, English mom.
English mom, okay. But let's let you talk.
Yes.
What's next for you? What else are you doing?
Well, I hope to be a producer that can produce multiple things in the same time. Even though
I think you can do that as a producer.
Yeah, I'm learning how to, because I've been in Israel. I was hired in a studio for a few years, so I was just an employee, and I had to produce everything that came my way, and I didn't have creative freedom to say, hey, I don't want to do this one. It's just boring or the same of something. So I had to do everything, and coming here, I was just embracing the opportunity to do something else, to be a freelancer, slowly.
Do the projects you're passionate about?
Yeah. And that's a different skill to be a freelancer, to just do your passion project, to go after your dreams, right? I'm sure Sasha can resonate with that.
That's a whole different thing than having a job.
Oh yeah, you know.
Yes, I do. I'm learning.
No, it's
water
amazing.
through a fire hose.
Yeah. It's like every morning you have to choose it. Like you have to think why you're doing it and find the motivation. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes, you wake up in the morning and everything is hard. But sometimes you do. And I hope to stick with the days that, like get more of those days where I find my motivation and do the things that I love, because you get to choose. I mean, this is the life. I know it's like sounds so heavy, but for me coming from
Exciting.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm excited today. Yeah.
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. No, it is a good thing. But
It is a roller coaster, though.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to wake up
Israel,
every day and am I doing it today?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then how am I going to make some money?
Yeah.
That's
While I
also a
do it.
question.
Yeah.
But then, luckily, I have support at home, so it's not as heavy as if I was just alone. For me, but I love it. I do love it. it's a path, like it's a journey for me.
Yeah.
Because coming from being an employee for so long, you know how it is.
So your background in Israel was in production, and you worked your way up that way?
It was kind of interesting. I came from music production. I was still am a singer-songwriter and a musician. So I had a band. I had a sponsor in Israel. So for 5 years, we were making my album, releasing it, and doing PR and doing tours in Israel. That was fun. It was great. It was,
I bet that was fun.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was also fun. I just remember paying everybody around me, never get paid, just because
I know how that feels.
Yeah. It's
At least there was some money.
yeah. That was amazing. That was great luck to nail that.
It's a good feeling to be able to pay people too.
I know. For 5
I always
years,
say
it
there's
took
nothing
me.
more fun than giving someone else a job.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I used to love that, but it cracked me. After 5 years, I was just like struggling with 3 jobs in Tel Aviv, and studying in the same time for my degree, and like everything, it was too much. So I decided to move to a small community in Israel. It's called a kibbutz.
Oh,
So
we've heard of that.
you have?
Isn't it like on a farm though?
Um,
Here's my American ignorance. So you moved to a farm?
Well,
Commune?
It's a commune. It's modern commune, but it's and it's a beautiful place. Basically, it's called Ein HaShofet. It's a small kibbutz, and I lived there for 2 years with my ex, and who supported my music and my studies and everything. But then I decided to leave it all and come to America to try to be what I am, like to be an artist, because I always was struggling. Am I gonna be into academics? Am I gonna be into therapy, which I am very much. I love music therapy. That's part of what I do. Used to do in Israel. Or am I gonna be the artist? It's like crossing the border.
Yeah. So you came here to be an artist?
Yeah.
Filmmaker, particularly?
Both filmmaker and musician. So I try to
Great.
combine the two as much as I can. Even though filmmaking I fell in love with it because it's like newer to me. So I'm more into that recently. And also it's just consuming. Just, you have so much to do as a producer. So I fell in love, and I also have strong relationship and commitment into that. So
I think I found the music for your film. Let me produce that for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'll be amazing. But we'll see. We don't know, how the cut is gonna look like and the edit, and we'll see. But I'm trying to bring more and more music into my productions and write songs for shorts that I produce, or work with directors and offer them, even if not my songs, my partner's songs or my friend songs, or just to promote the community of songwriters, because it's it's hard to get out there. There's so much noise.
Yeah, for sure.
And Inbar was such a perfect find for me, because already 3 years ago we made a decision to only use Israeli musicians, Israeli music for the film.
And you know them.
I do.
Yes.
So it was like, what?
Perfect. So do you
I know
have
them all. There's like 10.
Do you have your next project lined up?
I do.
It's a secret project.
I'm just debating if to take it or not. But
You can't tell me. You'd have to kill me. I respect that. I respect that. Okay. I do want to ask you too, what do you think of the state of women in the world at the moment?
Let me just start by saying that I was fortunate enough to be asked to do a female directors panel in AFI 4 months ago for the SCL. That's the Society of Composers and Lyricists, which I love that organization, and I'm also part of it. And as producer, they asked me to do a panel about female directors, and that was so funny because I said, like, why do we have to have like female directors? Can we just say it's a directors panel, or like what's with the female directors? And
not here, not now.
Yeah. It was, but we debated on that because we wanted to bring the focus. We wanted to tell everybody, hey, look, this is so important for us that we're going to bring just female directors. And
Like, could you say we're just having a panel of directors and not mention it and just have all women and wait for someone to comment?
that was the end. That was the result. Like the invitation was just, hey, director's perspective on music and films. That was the panel. That was the focus. And all the bios and all the pictures were ladies, and that was very cool. We had huge success in AFI. Lots of people came, and it was amazing.
Was there any blowback or questioning, or did it come up?
I asked like some hard questions as, how is it for you as woman director in the industry? What's your struggles? Like, what do you care about? We talked about that for sure. I didn't want to ignore that. But it wasn't the first thing we discussed. It was more the art. How do you talk about music? How do you think music as a director? That's just the artist side.
They must have actually loved that, because I think they're
course.
probably getting sick of talking about being a woman director.
Um,
I keep asking everybody. They're getting annoyed with me, but
No, that's very good.
gonna keep
It's a
doing it.
valid question.
Yeah. I think, just because I was talking to a lot of women, I had more than 60 directors who applied who submitted their work to be in the panel, which was
Wow.
incredible. I have to say that the AWD, the Alliance for Women Directors, really helped me with that. They published the panel and the submissions, and that was amazing. So I was discussing this exactly thing with a lot of women, and that was so interesting to hear their different perspectives on that. So some said, hey, I'm going to hire only women because that's so important to me. And some said, I don't even think about that. Where do how? I mean,
do I have to be an activist too, on top of being a director? Can I just be a director?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I can tell you from my perspective, just because I do sets and I still work in production, I love hiring both. That's my point of view. Like, I just love having 50 and 50% of, just like that. And so that's important to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have more women just because they're women. I would love to have people, just talented people. But I am looking at having equal men and women on set. It's important for me. That's it. Yeah.
And I think we're probably at the point where you have to be really conscious about it, and that isn't just going to happen if you just start going down rosters and calling.
No,
people.
you have to make a choice for sure. Yeah. What about you?
It's interesting because I'm the only child, and I grew up both as a boy and a girl, kind of. I did karate and dancing and singing and languages, like all of it. And then I went to law school. It was always very important in my upbringing that I focus on the intellectual, never the emotional, never the artist, never girly. And I never even thought it was a thing. And also Russia, on a side note, when I first came to the States and I started watching Mad Men, I was like, oh, it's just like Russia. And then the second thought was like, oh, that's 50 years ago.
It's not.
So just to give you a concept of...
That's how it still is?
Yeah.
Mostly because they're smoking inside.
No. And they're not drinking as much in the office. But kind of the relationship...
But the gender roles?
Gender roles and relationship with minorities and all those things, that's kind of like it is. And there is a historic context to that. I mean, come on. People half forget about the fact that we lived in, in a totalitarian regime until, 30 years ago.
Till the 90s, right?
Yeah.
It's usually
blows
not
me
great
away.
for women.
Yeah, not great for women. And
it's
before
funny
that,
'cause-
it was even worse. It was slavery, and there was, people don't necessarily connect that image with Russia.
Right, because we meet Russians who live in America who...
Oh, a lot of them are very conservative.
Although I meet a lot of badass Russian women, I will tell you.
When we get out.
Yeah. But Hugh, what do you? How do you care for?
I like how my producer is interviewing me
I
on
know,
your
it's
podcast.
great.
I'm very curious. We never spoke about that.
Yeah, we did never talked about that. That's true. for me, it was one of the things that I discovered actually when I came out here. And as I was listening to you, and you saying how you are discovering yourself as an artist here, it was a very similar thing for me. I always say that I had to get out to another continent away from my dad to become an artist and try acting and really go for it and really go for my creative endeavors, because I hear my dad on Skype once a week and he can't get any more.
Was he
So-
just not having that?
No.
Yeah.
It took him, when I first started working in film, it was 3 years of fighting. Just fighting. And we love each other, and it was, I know the place that it's coming from, and really, and now even more I understand him as I'm, you know, growing up a little bit, and I'm looking back at my dad and how he was thinking about things at the times when I was making those decisions, and why he was, you know, so insistent on things sometimes, because, you know, his life literally got broken in half because he was 30 when the Soviet Union collapsed, both him and my mom. So, and they had 5-year-old me. And when you're at that point, like, you live your whole life in something, and then in one day you wake up and it's not there, not the country, not the economy, no food, no nothing. Biggest thing you appreciate is stability.
Yeah.
And that's kind of overall in Russia situation, that people wanted this stability. And, you know, we can go into the
So
whole,
did it
like,
come with, there's all this different opportunity now, but that safety net and
Yes.
security and stability was gone?
must is I'm sorry, I didn't get the question, I think.
Was the, it seems like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, under communism,
Yes.
did you always know you would have food and a place to live? And
More or less.
so now
will
you have
live
more
poorly,
opportunity.
you will live
but
poorly, but
right.
very,
But you're
very
gonna
stable.
survive.
Yes. Very, very stable. And the rules were clear, and you knew what's what. You
the
know.
expectations are
Yeah.
clear.
The anti-Semitism is government stated,
Mandated.
the you know the homophobia is government mandated. The
You know where-
minorities.
what box everyone
yeah,
fits
you
in.
know where you are, and then one day, none of the boxes are there, and you don't know what's going to happen. That's a whole different level of scary.
Yeah, and then everyone has to adjust their brains.
And then a whole new economy comes in with all the new things that we don't understand. We don't know how they work, and there's so much.
Now what are you going to do, and how are you going to earn a living, and how are you going to feed your
Yeah,
family?
like
and,
free economy, like.
and now can you follow a passion?
No, not really. At that time, it was very difficult for a lot of people. My dad was fortunate because he was a programmer, and he found a job with an American company that was, you know,
Good.
extraordinarily good. He was very, very fortunate. But the majority of people didn't have that.
So it takes a certain amount of maturity for you to be able to look at your parents and say, I know the context they were living in and
Yeah.
where they were coming from and why they were projecting that onto me, and I'm going to choose something different. Like, not everyone can do that.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it took me, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it took me to get away on another continent
Yeah.
to
Have some perspective.
to have some perspective, and to grow into my 30s and look at what they were going through and connect with myself where I am. And I'm imagining, you know, them. I imagine having a 7-year-old right now, and it's just, I don't know what I would be doing.
Who is literally growing up in a different world
Yeah,
that you don't know how to navigate.
yeah, yeah. So
That's a trip.
yeah, yeah, and so I really connected with that. And then at the same time, you know, I am still fighting those battles with my dad in my head,
Sure.
and
He's your tape.
yeah, and it's one of those things where, you know, who's going to be the feminist for me in my head?
Yeah, you are.
And you have to be.
This is why we have therapists.
Exactly. And yeah, that was, for me, that was the biggest discovery, because you find yourself in a country that is way further advanced in that, you know, in that way. Although not all Russians would agree with me. Actually, I had recently a conversation with a friend who said, what are you talking about? Half of our CEOs are women.
See?
Which not sure if that's true.
You're not sure about that data?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that data, really.
Fact check.
Yes.
But
Ours are not. We have more CEOs named John than we have female CEOs. Fun fact.
that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Right? Right?
Yeah. So for me, the feminism in America was more about kind of discovering it in me, and finding my own grounds with that.
Because what does it mean? Because we're really lippy about it. And yeah, we're, you know, Afghanistan just let women drive today. And we're bitching that we're not enough CEOs. I mean, it's all relative.
It is.
But I think you get a little taste of freedom and equality. Anything less than 100% is intolerable.
For sure.
So we're going to keep complaining.
For sure. For sure.
Until we get there.
And it's one of those things that when I go back now and I look at things that used to be normal, they're outrageous for me now.
Yeah. So you're that kid who goes abroad and then comes home and complains about everything and drives everyone nuts.
I don't complain because it is one of those things also, being an immigrant. I don't know well, you haven't gone back yet.
I haven't. It's been too crazy with I Clown You.
So you still have that
Fun visit.
That fun visit.
Kind of scared of it.
When you go and you're like, what is this? And it's a whole different place now. Like, it's not the place that you left.
No, it never is. It's like American kids go abroad and they go to a third world country or an emerging country, and then they come back and they're just disgusted by America and its excesses.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
it's important to get out.
Yeah. But also the place changes. Like when you leave, the country evolves and it moves in some direction.
They say you can never go home again.
No, you can't. You really can't.
Oh.
You go to the place where home is, but it's never the same home.
No.
It just isn't anymore. And you look at it differently, and it looks at you differently because it has gone in a different place.
Yeah.
And you've gone in
And
a
it
whole
legit
different
changes.
place.
The shops are different. The people
Yeah.
are different.
Yeah.
The
That bar
relationship
closed.
is different, yeah.
And that community fell apart, and that couple divorced. And well, in my case, half of my friends left the country.
Yeah, oh, I bet.
We have a WhatsApp group in which we are all, kind of
All the expats.
all the expats together with the ones who are back home, but it's literally half and half.
It's interesting. In Israel, people are also in the middle, like the economy is kind of harsh on the artists and the young people. So there's like a lot of migration now towards Europe and America. I mean, more for trying it, like to see if you can make it as an artist.
Yeah.
And not just artists, also tech and startup, like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, living in Israel, it's a problem. Most of my friends are like looking into get away.
Yeah.
It's
Same with me.
It's not easy.
In Russia, people are just, even people who said I would never leave. I was one of those people. I always said I'm never gonna leave. When
Me too,
I
yeah.
got Fulbright and we were sitting in the kitchen with my dad and having a glass of wine, and he said, "Don't come back." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Thanks, Dad.
Like,
What do you mean?
First of all, I signed a paper that I'm going back to my home country.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Fulbright obligation.
You're not defecting. You're just taking a trip.
Yeah, I'm going for school. And you always told me, this is our country and we're going to make this place better. What are you telling me? You didn't leave, I told him, because half of his friends left in the 90s.
Why
Jewish
did he tell
program.
you not to come back?
And he said, the saddest thing I've ever heard, he said, if I knew then what I know now, I would have left. And I'm like, okay, I'll digest that on my 12-hour flight. And now a lot of people who never thought and never wanted to leave are leaving. At the age when it's hard to leave.
It is, like in the 30s.
It's hard to leave when you're, 18, 20. When you're 30 with 2 kids,
Way harder.
it's extraordinarily hard, and people do that.
Yeah.
It's different in Israel, though. I feel people are like more optimistic about it. Right?
I'm sure just by default, Israelis are overall more optimistic than Russians.
Yeah.
Just like Russians are.
Russians.
I think Russia. If there's like a chart of optimism, Russia would be like number 1 from the bottom.
But
literally.
it's kind of funny because you're also Israeli, because you lived in Israel a little bit.
Little bit.
you know the feeling.
Yes.
So I feel like all Israelis are saying, we're going to take a little vacation for a few years and we're going to come back.
For a few years.
A few years. Just try, you know, going to try to live somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You're here 10 years now?
7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a vacation.
Yeah.
Long vacation.
Long vacation, yeah. And that's what my friend...
Period in your life.
Yeah. Well, see, like now I'm married here. Now, you know, and it was one of those things where I realized, okay, I'm going to have to bring my children up here.
Yeah.
That was the thing that made me realize, oh, I'm an immigrant.
You can have American children. Do you have children yet?
No, not yet, but getting close to
Thinking
that.
about it?
Yeah, to that idea. And yeah, they're going to speak English.
They're going to be super multicultural.
Yes, that's the plan.
That's what changes the world, I think.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 5 cultures in your immediate family, who
Yeah.
who are you going to hate? Who are you going to go to war with?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you brought that up because that, I think, as I was working on this film, I was exploring myself more and my family and my you know, worldview, and I realized that it actually is in my blood because my Jewish grandfather married a Cossack girl, and Cossacks were the ones who did pogroms on Jews. And so they were the children of the ones doing the pogroms and the ones who were suffering the pogroms. And when they decided to get married, it so happened that my grandmother's uncle was in town, and he was the first one to meet the groom. He sent a telegram home. It was the 50s. Sent a telegram, a new paper word, so it was brief. So it said, Ksana.
Tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a micro tweet. Ksana, marry ugly midget Jew. That was the news. That was the save the date.
Offensive.
Can you be in such a short tweet?
Most
Talent
insult-
runs in my family.
Oh, wow. Briefest, jam-packed insult.
And they got married, and you know, they were together for 20 years. They divorced in the end, but you know, my dad came out of it.
And we're back to love trumps hate.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow. Okay, what advice do you have for young women coming up, starting out, being artists?
Be part of the community. Don't be afraid to download Meetup and just find your meetups and your
Find your tribe?
yeah, find your tribe for sure. I love networking. It's like I love it. So I immediately got into multiple communities here. But I see, you know, friends who come here and, you know, are more they hesitate into getting into different, you know, communities. And they're so, like, preserved and afraid to make the step. But it's so important. Like, have your own community here. And there are lots different lovely communities of women here. Very empowering and inspiring. And
For sure. I'm learning about so many women's groups there are here in business. I had no idea. And I've been here working in it for 25 years. I didn't know.
Yeah,
it's an
great
asset.
advice.
Oh, thank you.
Great advice. I don't know how to beat that.
Yeah, better
I
be
don't think
better.
I can. I don't think I can.
How about different?
Yeah, right. I mean, persevere. I mean, it's nothing new there. Just write it and enjoy it because it's tough. And it's fun because yesterday I was interviewing an intern, and it turned into a whole coaching session.
That happens.
Because she just graduated and she was no experience at all in the industry.
Yeah.
None. She hasn't done any internship, no work, just some school out there. And you know, she was asking me all about how it is,
That's how you start.
how to get in, and I was just telling her it doesn't matter where you begin. That's what I told her. There's no right or wrong, and you never know which one is right or wrong. Don't try to plan it out and
There's no
make a
set path.
perfect career path for 10 years. It's impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So don't try. Like, because I certainly am guilty of that, of trying to, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then this.
Yeah.
And then none of that happens.
Yeah.
So just go into something, try it, and keep moving forward.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you guys wanted to talk about?
Our campaign is gonna launch on October 24th, and we're fundraising for post-production, and there are lots of great opportunities to be part of that community around the film. We are on Facebook and Twitter.
That's one of the things that I actually was talking to that intern yesterday about, and sorry, I'll just jump in. It's how documentary filmmaking, and especially as a filmmaker, you think, okay, I'm going to grab the camera and go film, and then I'm going to edit, and music, and big screen, and festival. And really, you don't realize how much of groundwork goes into it, and groundwork of researching your characters and finding the right ones and finding a lot of wrong ones and fundraising and making connections and all of that, and also growing your community around the film. And I feel that nowadays it's such a great time because as a filmmaker you get into it to deliver a message.
Yeah.
You have an idea, you have a message, you want to share it. And a lot of filmmakers, and myself also guilty of that, think of outreach as kind of a chore, whereas the truth is you're delivering the message.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to deliver the message, and I feel like that was important.
Yeah, it's
thing to realize for me in this process of working on this film.
It's kind of the point. I mean, especially if you're doing a documentary, which is all about message and story, and there's a purpose behind it.
Exactly.
You also have to be willing to talk about that purpose.
Yes.
And be out there.
Yeah. And so, doing the
mission.
talks, doing the outreach, putting bits and pieces out and starting conversations around it. Mm-hmm. And people talk about it as like, this is your marketing strategy. No, that's part of the art.
Yeah. None of this is in isolation. You're not writing a book you're going to secretly send to a publisher and be anonymous.
Mm-hmm. No. It's a very different, and I think also it's changing because of how technology is, because of how social media is. It forces you to do that, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. It's a way to test some of your concepts and see how they resonate and how they resonate back at you and how you think of them once they resonate. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a great way to test ideas.
Well, it's instant feedback.
Yeah, within that outreach field.
No, it's good. It's gonna be great. It's we have so many partners by now. It's part of the outreach, and people get inspired. People do get inspired by just we're just like sharing the story of Abdallah, or just Dudi and what he's doing in what he was doing in Nepal and Haiti, and how clowns go there to help people, in whatever stage they are, and people get inspired, and we're just happy to bring them on and to have them participate, and we have some good partners by now.
Yeah.
Who are some of your partners?
Sinai Temple Men's Club is a huge partner. It was one of those things that you knock on doors, and then one of them opens. And Rabbi Wolpe of Sinai Temple was very kind and actually invited me to speak in front of the congregation. And very short, 3-minute, but that was enough to inspire the men's club, and they were very generous and decided to help us bring the clowns to town. And then USC and UCLA jumped on board, the Nazarian Center for Israel Studies. And at USC, it's Applied Theater Department, drama School of Drama.
Mm-hmm.
You're in.
It's exciting
and
to
Hadassah
have.
And Sheba.
Yes, the hospitals that we've filmed at have been home to us for now a few years. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting when people see potential in it. That's probably the thing, that keeps you going, especially when you're not making any money from it, any. So the only hope is that you'll get it out and it will be great.
Yeah, and it's worthwhile and it's important.
Yeah, and to see people along the way join the team and and come in and support in whatever the ways they do is really validating and encouraging and inspiring. It's wonderful.
It's great. Well, I wish you all the success in the whole wide world.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
for
This
having
is
us.
so fun.
Yeah.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Sasha Kapustina and Inbal Rotem Sagiv for sharing their stories. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podbay, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. And we are now on YouTube, where you will start to see these interviews on video, like this one. I put about 15 minutes up. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Other50% and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out The Other 50%, a herstory of tech. Thanks for listening. See you next time.